welcome to the Lighten Up Podcast with Lauren Polly, your invitation for living on the lighter side of life. I'm Lauren Polly, and I'm delighted you have chosen to join me today for episode 203, being somewhere in the middle. Today, I want to talk about interesting points of view that people have in the world and that we constantly get stuck in. It's just a fascinating thing to be looking at where people have to be the right one. And if you disagree at all with me, then obviously you're taking something away from me and I have to defend and protect my point of view and make you completely wrong. Uh, it's just interesting to me. I've been watching a lot of the news with everything going on in the world. And more than watching the news for the news, because it is so slanted these days, I've been kind of using it as an awareness exercise, listening to what people say and starting to notice where the charge is, where people are really more interested in framing things to suit their personal bias, framing things to kind of get across their agenda, whatever that is, about kind of buying people or bringing people over to their side to buy it also, and how polarized things are. And I know this isn't a new conversation or new information. Things have been really polarized in our world for a very long time. We have a world that is very much based on I have to be right in what I believe, and the way that I make myself right and know that I'm right is by making you wrong. And it's just such a fascinating energy to me, being somebody who usually can see all sides of the argument, and not only see all sides, I can usually pretty much argue all sides too. It's kind of a fascinating thing. You may be similar where you actually look around at a lot of the conversations people have and you can see their viewpoint, and then you can look at the other side of the argument and see their viewpoint too. And like me, you may actually be making yourself wrong because you feel like you never take a stand. And it's like, well, aren't I supposed to do that? Isn't that what kind of growing up or creating something or having worth is, of actually like, this is my belief system and this is what I'm putting out there with this really strong, forceful presence behind it. And it's kind of an interesting thing when you are leading conversations and you're creating things in the world, but you don't actually have that. And what happens when people challenge you on what you believe and what you're putting out there, the message behind your business, or why you're choosing a certain relationship, or how you're raising your children. And most people confront you because, again, they're trying to go, are you right in what you're choosing? Either should I choose what you're choosing too, or should I argue with what you're choosing to kind of prove my point of view as well? We live in a world where we are constantly put on the defensive and we have to continually prove why we're choosing things and justify why we're choosing things. And it's such an interesting thing, again, when you do get challenged that way and you don't have that thing where you're like, this is the right way and that's why I'm choosing it. Instead, you're more in the wonderment and the question of, well, this is how I see things, but you see things differently and I see your point of view too. You're not wrong. I'm not wrong. This is just the way it is. It can feel very easy, like you actually don't have a leg to stand on or you don't have your feet underneath you. And heaven forbid if you are actually choosing something different than other people or the society at large, actually having the wherewithal, the stick-to-it-ness to actually go forward with it when you don't have that rigidity that other people have can be quite interesting. For me, it's been really fascinating having a book out about mental illness. Those of you who've read my book, The Other Side of Bipolar, know that I kind of don't make anything wrong in it. I'm one who embraces the medical system. I'm also one that embraces the holistic system and the energy systems. I've actually found a great deal of success with myself and also with my myriad of clients to marry all of it and to use everything in its own delicious momentary creation with how you're doing in that moment and what you require. And so often people people in this conversation on mental health, it's all about medication, it's all about the rightness of the medical system, or it's all about the wrongness of the medical system, only doing the holistic. I find I'm very unique in my viewpoint of actually including all of it, not making any of it wrong and actually utilizing it. But it has led to some really interesting things personally when I'm creating it and putting it out into the world of, wow, I mean, I don't really have like this hard stance that other people do. And when I get challenged on it, it makes me sound a bit more wiggly than other people. Other experts, quote unquote, and authorities have like one viewpoint they stand behind and they prove it till the cow comes home, so to speak. And it really made me look at how often other people are probably going through that, but nobody really talks about it. So I wanted to put this conversation out for you today. And perhaps you're not creating a business where you're out in the public eye like I am. Perhaps you are doing it in your own personal relationship or choosing an unorthodox career path or raising kids with a different perspective. Perhaps just in your own navigation system as you move through life, you've been like, well, oh, I could totally see the benefit of that, but this thing that's on the opposite side of the spectrum, I see the benefit in that too, and have perhaps gotten a little bit lost in that. I just like to say you're not wrong. Perhaps you are more aware than you'd like to give yourself credit for. And perhaps there's a strength here to be able to see all sides of the conversation, to be able to actually have all sides of the conversation. And what could you invite into the world if you're not actually in that polarized place of this is the right way, therefore you're in the wrong way, and having to constantly prove and defend that? Where have you been really having to kind of build a case for yourself regarding your life choices? And where has that led into a great deal of personal judgment and also given you kind of like this external button that people want to come and push? You know that energy where it's kind of like, well, if I'm trying to defend something and prove my rightness, it's like you're almost trying to get an argument going. And before you know it, someone out there who's looking for an argument finds you because you're giving them something to push up against. You know, so many of us, when we have this awareness and we can see all sides and all possibilities, we really go into this weird thing where we go all in on one thing, really building a lot of energy and defense and rightness around what we've chosen, because we see the world functioning that way. We see that we have to do that in order to create anything, or in order to kind of defend against other people's judgments and resentments of us. What if there was actually more power and more kind of like authenticity and lightness and ease and relaxation and going, you know what? I actually don't function that way. I'm very different where I see all sides. I don't see a rightness and a wrongness. I see nuances. I see other people's realities and their points of view on reality coming into play and guiding them. I'm very aware of those constant needs and tugs of rightness and wrongness. And, oh, if you believe something different, it takes something different from me. It takes something away from me. What if you could actually just start relaxing into the fact that you can see everything? You're aware of everything, and that a lot of people around you may be looking like they're definitive in what they're choosing, and maybe pushing that definitiveness on you, trying to get you to come onto their side or sway you over. And you may have actually built up a lot of reaction to that definitiveness. Either you've bought into it thinking, oh, well, that's the way my parents live, that's what I have to do. Or that's the way my friends live, I guess that's where I'm going to. Or you've gone into the reaction of it of like, okay, well, if they believe that and I don't want to be like them, then I have to go onto this other side. I have to swing the pendulum, so to speak. It's just this fascinating thing. And if you look around the world the way it is now, everything is so politicized. Everything is so polarized. And when you are moderate, when you're in the middle, when you are kind of more in that interesting point of view stance of not going all the way to the left or all the way to the right, you can see the nuances. You can kind of play in that no man's land. It's a very creative space because it gives you more awareness. It also gives you the ability to act on those nuances and constantly have that navigation system that is easily movable. And a lot of us think, well, if I'm easily movable, then that means that I don't actually know what I'm talking about, that I don't have authority, or that I can't make choices in my life. I don't have a stick-to-it-ness. No, if you're more wiggly, if you have that mobility, that again is more of a creative stance. And perhaps it's just different than the way other people function. It is different than how other people function. And how can you play that as a strength and not a weakness? What if what is true for you lies in the undefinable aspects of life? What is true for you actually lies in your awareness that other people let realities and their biases, their points of view, and all the decisions they've made cloud every reaction and every interaction they have? And what if you're able to be in the face of that? Relax around it and just know that's all their stuff. And that you don't have to react to it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to defend yourself. You can be the question when everybody else is trying to prove that they have the answer. And what if that's not a wrongness? And I know that's super different. I think any of you out there who have been creating something outside the norm, or even if you haven't stepped into creating that, you just have felt that in your own space. This is very different. It is a learned practice. It's a muscle to be built of like, it's not a right or a wrong. There's many sides to this conversation. And depending on where you're coming from, you're going to look at it differently. You're going to choose something differently, but that's okay. And what a gift that can be to people who function that way. What a permission that is for people who've been locked up inside their judgment forever to actually come out of it. As I said, I've been kind of going through this in my own space over the years with being kind of that question space in the field of mental health when other people are very much into the right way or the answer way. I've also been through that even just kind of like taking in information that's going on in the world right now with the polarization and the politics of like, I see their side, I see that side too. And I've been that way in places where I've been challenged personally in what I choose and how I choose to live my life. And I get that sometimes it does feel like, oh, well, I guess I don't know myself well, or I guess I'm not creating something that is of worth because I am more of that question of it could be this, it could be that. It doesn't feel as definitive, and I think so many times we give clout to the fact that, wow, if you're really strong in your point of view and you stick to it, that means that you're really strong in your knowing and that you kind of like charge forth, and that's the right way to be. What if it's not? What if you being the point of view of, wow, there really isn't a point of view that is the right one here? What if you actually being again that question and not the answer actually leads to more creative possibilities, not just for you, but for the world? And could that actually allow yourself to relax in the face of all the polarity in the world right now? What if when you are moving and grooving about your life creation, you actually could meet that harsh judgment, that stick-to-it-ness of like, this is the right way, and go, okay, that's them. What would I like to choose? What if you could actually look at yourself when you're trying to prove your point or defend your point and go, I'm putting a lot of extra energy into that, trying to justify why I'm doing what I'm doing. What if I could just right now lay it down, zip my lip, so to speak, and walk away? What if you could take all that energy that you've been utilizing and actually redirect it into a space of relaxation and a space of creativity? And I know it's weird, I know it's wacky, and I know it's kind of this like outside of the box kind of thing. Even with people who say they don't have a point of view, how often when they talk, there's such a charge on what they're saying that you're like, that kind of is a point of view that you're trying to prove right now. And watching when you do it yourself of like, wow, okay, look what I'm doing. I'm defending, I'm justifying, and I'm fighting right now. What if I was able just to lay it down? And what if I was able to actually create a personal life, a professional life, a business that was one that was based in question and that actually left room for every point of view to be included and not judged, and still was able to choose for myself in any given moment? It's a very, very, very different possibility, but one that I believe all of us have access to. It again just takes that muscle to be built. You'll start to look to see where you are getting yourself stuck in defending and proving the rightness and getting aligned, or making yourself wrong because you aren't that. You're judging yourself because you don't have that stick-to-it-ness. And actually see if your stick-to-it-ness more has creative potential in the open flow and the navigation, more so than the direct path that you may have been trying to find. It's a very different conversation. Please reach out to me and let me know how this goes. And I'm just curious, more of us choosing this energy, especially right now with all of the polarized energy out in the world, what can be created. Have an amazing week. And as always, I will chat with you next Tuesday.